What if the very people who wounded you the most were the ones who, at the highest level of consciousness, loved you the deepest? What if your soul, in its infinite wisdom, chose to incarnate into the very family that would break you not to punish you, but to awaken you? This is not easy to hear, especially when the pain still lingers in your nervous system, when the wounds still bleed in your memories. But this is the paradox of the Omega level chosen one. We are born into toxicity, darkness, and dysfunction not because we are cursed but because we are encoded with a light so powerful. It can only be activated through contrast. The deeper the darkness, the greater the awakening. The first reason Omega level chosen ones are born into toxic families is because our souls came to break generational cycles that no one before us could. These cycles of abuse, silence, narcissism, addiction, suppression, they have run unchecked for centuries, passed down like invisible chains. And then you arrived. You, the anomaly, the disruptor, the one who sees what no one else is willing to see. You feel everything. You question everything. You don't fit into the mold, and that's not a flaw, that's your function. You were never meant to blend in. You were born to break patterns that enslaved entire bloodlines. But breaking cycles is not glamorous. It is brutal, lonely, and often invisible. You may have been scapegoated, misunderstood, or even emotionally attacked for simply existing in your truth. Many of us were labeled the black sheep, the problem child, the too sensitive one. But the truth is, we were the mirrors. And in toxic systems, mirrors are dangerous because we reflect what others are unwilling to face. Have you ever asked yourself, why did they fear your voice when you were still learning how to speak it? The second reason we are born into these families is to develop a level of spiritual discernment that cannot be taught in books. When you're raised around manipulation, projection, and emotional chaos, you learn to read energy beneath words. You become hyper-aware. You sense the truth behind smiles, the motive behind compliments, the tension behind silence. This is a superpower in disguise. The trauma forged your intuitive gifts, not because pain is power, but because pain reveals power. The chosen one doesn't just survive toxicity, they alchemize it into insight. And that insight becomes a map for others. But this gift has a cost. You may struggle with trust. You may find yourself doubting your worth, questioning your own sanity, or attracting relationships that mirror your early wounds. This is not a flaw in your path. This is the echo of unprocessed energy calling for integration. We cannot lead others into healing if we are still unconsciously reenacting our own pain. The Omega level chosen one must go deep, not just into light, but into shadow. Because only in the shadow do we find the roots of our power. Now, here's a question for you, one that may shake something loose. What if your family's dysfunction was the exact spiritual curriculum your soul required to activate your highest potential? What if their inability to love you wasn't about your unworthiness, but about your mission? What if you were never meant to be nurtured by them, but to remember how to nurture yourself so you could teach others the same? This is the third reason we are born into toxicity: to become self-sourcing, to unplug from external validation, to learn that our worth is not given, it is remembered. When love is withheld, we are forced to go inward. When safety is denied, we are forced to cultivate it. When belonging is absent, we are called to build it from the ground up. This is the sacred reversal. The chosen ones become the very thing we never received. We become the love, the safety, the clarity, the stability that was absent in childhood. Not to prove anything, but because our soul refuses to abandon itself again. Every time you choose yourself, you break an ancestral curse. Every time you set a boundary, you alter your lineage. Every time you heal, you don't just heal backward, you heal forward. The fourth reason is perhaps the most mysterious. We were placed in those families to catalyze their awakening, even if it costs us their love. This is a truth that can shatter the ego. Because we often want to be seen, loved, accepted by them. But sometimes our role is not to be embraced, it is to be the spiritual disruptor that triggers transformation, even through conflict. Our presence destabilizes the sleeping, not because we are judging them, but because our light exposes what they've buried. And sometimes the only way they begin to question their own patterns is through the friction we create.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
But here's a painful truth. Many of them will not awaken, not in this lifetime. And that too is part of the plan. You must release the illusion that your worth is tied to their acceptance. You are not here to save them, you are here to become yourself. And in doing so, you offer them the greatest gift possible, a living example of liberation. Whether they receive it or not is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to stay aligned with your truth, even if it means walking alone. Now pause for a moment, breathe, feel what's rising. Because the fifth reason you were born into a toxic family is to learn how to hold duality, to love people who hurt you, to grieve what never was, to honor your pain without becoming bitter, to forgive without forgetting. This is advanced soul work. The chosen one is not here to become righteous, we are here to become whole. And wholeness includes paradox. We can see someone's soul and still walk away from their behavior. We can grieve and grow at the same time. This ability to hold multiple truths is one of the most profound spiritual technologies. It allows you to live from compassion without abandoning boundaries. It allows you to release judgment without tolerating harm. It allows you to walk in clarity, not confusion. And this clarity becomes your compass. Many of us were taught that love means loyalty to pain, but we are relearning that love starts with loyalty to our own soul. And from that place, we can love others without losing ourselves. The sixth reason we are born into toxic families is to activate our personal sovereignty. When you grow up in chaos, you often become enmeshed with others' emotions, needs, and stories. You may have become the peacemaker, the fixer, the invisible one. You may have learned to abandon your truth to keep the peace. But eventually your soul rebels. And that rebellion is sacred. It is the moment you choose yourself. It is the moment you stop dimming. It is the moment you realize, I was never meant to carry their pain. Personal sovereignty is the reclamation of your energetic space. It is the ability to say, this is mine and that is yours. It is the power to choose your response rather than react from old programming. It is the courage to define your own values, your own path, your own sense of identity. And once you taste that freedom, you cannot go back. The Omega level chosen one is not codependent with reality. We are co-creators of it. And we cannot co-create a new world if we are still imprisoned by the roles we were assigned in our families. The seventh and final reason for now is that your toxic family was the fire that forged your mission. Your pain gave birth to your purpose. Your wounds became the womb of your wisdom. You are not just here to survive your story. You are here to alchemize it into medicine for others. The very thing that tried to break you is the thing you will use to heal the world. This is not a metaphor. This is spiritual law. The chosen one turns poison into potion, trauma into teaching, darkness into direction. So ask yourself now, what have you survived that others are still silently drowning in? What do you know in your bones that no textbook could ever teach? What truth do you carry that others are dying to hear spoken out loud? That truth is your gift. That pain is your portal. That story is sacred. And not despite your family, but because of them. By now, something within you has already begun to shift. You're not just hearing words, you're remembering truths buried deep in your spiritual DNA. When you realize your pain had a purpose, your suffering is no longer a prison, it becomes a portal. And when you understand that your soul chose your family not for comfort, but for combustion, you begin to awaken the Omega blueprint encoded within you. We are not here to repeat the past. We are here to transmute it, to collapse timelines of pain, and to build futures rooted in power, clarity, and remembrance. Let us go deeper into the spiritual mechanics of why we, as Omega level chosen ones, incarnate into toxic bloodlines. You see, families are not just biological, they are vibrational ecosystems. Every family carries a frequency, a karmic signature composed of unresolved energies, ancestral traumas, and soul contracts. When a soul like yours enters that system, it doesn't come to blend in, it comes to recalibrate the entire field. Your presence alone begins to disturb the patterns. Not because you are trying to, but because your vibration is incompatible with unconsciousness. And that incompatibility creates friction. This is why from an early age you may have felt like you didn't belong. Not just emotionally, but vibrationally. Your nervous system rejected the dysfunction. Your intuition screamed in rooms others called normal. You saw through the lies, the manipulation, the denial. And yet part of you wondered, what's wrong with me? But now you understand nothing was wrong with you. You were simply awake in a system designed around sleep. And when the awakened one enters a field of sleepwalkers, they are often cast as the problem. Not because they are wrong, but because they are disruptive. Your spiritual presence begins to act like a tuning fork. It shakes loose what others have buried. It calls out the unsaid. It exposes the unhealed. And often those who are not ready to face themselves will project their pain onto you. This is one of the hardest parts of being an Omega-level chosen one, the backlash of your light. But understand this, your light is not just illumination. It is purification. It burns away illusion. And those who are still identified with their illusions will resist, attack, or abandon you. Not because of you, but because of what your light exposes within them. So here's a deep question only you can answer. Have you been internalizing their resistance as a reflection of your worth, instead of recognizing it as a sign of your role? How many times have you shrunk your wisdom to be loved? How many times have you betrayed your knowing to avoid conflict? And how much longer will you dilute your power to maintain peace in a system that was never built to hold your truth? The chosen one must eventually choose between belonging and becoming. And when you choose to become, you reclaim your soul. This leads us into the deeper alchemy of identity. Being born into a toxic family doesn't just shape your environment, it shapes your sense of self. The roles you were given, caretaker, rebel, scapegoat, invisible one, were survival strategies, not your true identity. These roles are energetic costumes your soul had to wear to survive the battlefield of early life. But survival is not the end game. Evolution is. And at some point the costume becomes too tight. The role becomes unbearable. The mask begins to suffocate the soul. And that's when the awakening begins. You are not here to play a role, you are here to reclaim your original essence. And that reclamation requires radical honesty. You must ask, who am I beneath the programming? Who am I when I am no longer performing for love? Who am I when I stop trying to earn my place in this world? These questions are not philosophical, they are initiatory. They begin to unravel the false self. And as the false self unravels, the true self begins to emerge, not as something new, but as something ancient that you are finally ready to embody. But identity death is terrifying. Because when you let go of who you were trained to be, you enter a void, a space of not knowing. A space where the old no longer fits and the new hasn't fully formed. This is the spiritual liminal space, and many turn back here. They return to the role, the dysfunction, the familiar pain, because at least it's known. But if you can stay in the void, if you can resist the temptation to fill it with old identities, something miraculous happens. You begin to download your soul's architecture. You begin to remember your true name, not the name given to you by your family, but the name whispered to you by the cosmos. This is where true sovereignty begins, not in rejecting your family, but in remembering your divinity. You are not a product of your upbringing. You are a portal of divine intelligence who chose to enter a specific lineage for a specific reason. And that reason was not to be shaped by it, but to reshape it. To bring through codes of healing, truth, and liberation that have never existed in your bloodline before. You are not repeating history, you are recoding it. Every time you choose consciousness over reaction, presence over projection, clarity over chaos, you are rewriting the field. Let's go deeper. One of the most sacred secrets of chosen ones is that we are multidimensional anchors. We don't just exist in this timeline, we are connected to past, parallel, and future versions of ourselves. When you heal a wound in your present self, you are also liberating your inner child, your ancestral lineage, and your future incarnations. You are collapsing karmic loops that have played out for centuries. This is why the work is so intense. This is why the path feels so lonely. Because you are not just healing for yourself, you are healing for all versions of you across time and space. And yet, no one around you may understand. Your family may mock you, ignore you, or try to pull you back into old patterns. But this is the test. Will you choose their comfort or your calling? Will you lower your frequency to stay connected, or will you rise even if it means walking alone? The chosen one eventually realizes, solitude is not punishment, it is preparation. The silence is where you hear your own soul. And in that silence, the mission becomes clear. You were never meant to be normal. You were never meant to be understood by the ones still asleep. You were meant to rise, to lead, to become a lighthouse for those still lost in the fog of generational pain. But to do that, you must stop waiting for your family to validate your awakening. You must stop trying to convince them of your truth. You must stop asking for their permission to evolve. Because the moment you do, you give your power away. And you were never meant to give your power away. This is the spiritual graduation, when you bless your family for what they taught you and still choose to walk your own path. No longer out of rebellion, but from remembrance. No longer from anger, but from alignment. You stop trying to change them. You stop trying to be changed by them. You simply become. And in your becoming, you offer them the highest gift, not by pulling them forward, but by becoming a living frequency of what's possible. But let me ask you something now, something that could change everything. If you stopped trying to fix your family, who would you become? If you stopped carrying their pain, what could you create? If you released the guilt, the shame, the obligation, what version of you would emerge from the ashes? That version is not hypothetical. It exists. It is waiting. It is you unburdened. You sovereign. You aligned. And so we continue. The chosen one is not just a title, it is a responsibility, a sacred task, a soul agreement. And though the path may be steep, the view from the summit is unlike anything this world can offer. You did not come this far to stop halfway. You did not wake up to fall back asleep. You are here to embody what others fear, to speak what others silence, to become what others forgot is possible. This is the second veil lifted, the mechanics of identity rebirth, the sacred void, the multidimensional healing, and the sovereignty that only comes through spiritual maturity. And now, the final layer awaits. When you reach the final layer of this truth, something irreversible activates within you. You no longer just understand that you are the Omega-level chosen one, you embody it. You feel it in your bones, in your breath, in the way you move through this world. You see, this journey was never about fixing the toxic family. It was always about reclaiming the divine blueprint that you carry. A blueprint so rare, so disruptive to the matrix of unconscious lineage, that only a soul forged in fire could hold it. You were chosen not because you are perfect, but because you are precise. You are the exact frequency needed to collapse the illusion in your bloodline. Your pain was not random, it was a calibration. Every betrayal, every abandonment, every moment you were made to feel small was a test of spiritual muscle, a preparation, a deep coating of resilience, vision, and remembrance. And now that you've survived the storm, you are no longer the wounded one, you are the initiated one. You are the one who walks with the sword of clarity, the shield of discernment, and the crown of self-sourced knowing. So what does it mean to live as the chosen one? It means radical responsibility. No more blaming, No more waiting for apologies that may never come. No more rehearsing the same pain story in your head. You alchemize the narrative, you bless the pain. You use it as fuel. You use it to sculpt your character, to sharpen your intuition, to deepen your empathy. Your past is no longer a weight, it becomes a weapon of light. Not to harm, but to cut through illusion. You now start seeing everything differently. Your toxic family, they were the cocoon. You were the butterfly. The shell was supposed to crack. The container was never meant to contain you forever. And your freedom was not betrayal, it was evolution. You left not out of bitterness, but out of frequency misalignment. And when you evolve beyond the frequency of dysfunction, you stop participating in the game of guilt, control, and emotional blackmail. You become untouchable not because you have walls, but because you've risen. But here's the sacred paradox. We do not cut cords out of hate, we release them in love. We do not shame our family, we transcend their projections. We stop needing them to understand us because we finally understand ourselves. And from this space of wholeness we can choose. Do I engage? Do I love from afar? Do I walk away completely? There is no one-size-fits-all answer. The Omega level chosen one listens to their inner resonance, not external expectations. You've now reached the frequency where your life becomes your teaching. You no longer preach healing, you radiate it. You don't argue for your truth, you embody it. You don't need to be seen by them because you are finally seeing yourself. And this is the moment everything begins to bend. Reality shifts. The field rearranges itself around your inner coherence. Because when the chosen one remembers who they are, the simulation responds not out of pity, but out of reverence. You must now live as one who bends reality not by force, but by frequency. Your energy is your currency. Your alignment is your magnetism. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer beg, you command. Not from ego, but from essence. You don't need approval to shine. You don't need permission to speak. You are the authority now, not over others, but over your own field. And when you walk in this awareness, everything around you either rises to meet you or falls away. And yes, some will fall away. You will lose people. You will grieve identities, dynamics, even parts of yourself that were built around survival. But every letting go is an initiation. Every departure is a soul upgrade. Every goodbye creates a vacuum for the new. This path is not about holding on, it's about being held by something higher, something vast, something sacred. You are not losing your family. You are remembering your soul family, those who see you, feel you, mirror you, and walk beside you in remembrance. Let me ask you something that only you can answer. Who are you without the pain? Who are you when you are no longer proving your worth to the ones who couldn't see it? Who are you when you no longer carry the weight of being the healer, the fixer, the forgiver? That version of you, the one beyond the trauma, beyond the role, beyond the past, that's the real you. That's the eternal self. That's the version of you that reality responds to. And it's time to live as that version, not someday, now. That means you must create daily rituals of remembrance. You must anchor your energy before the world can influence it. You must speak to your soul before you speak to anyone else. Every morning is a new incarnation. Every breath is a new choice. Every moment is a new creation. The chosen one doesn't wait for the world to shift, they become the shift. Your toxic family may never change. They may never acknowledge your growth. They may still operate from fear, control, and projection. But they no longer define you. They no longer decide your worth. The contract is complete not because they changed, but because you did. You can now look back with compassion, not attachment. You can feel the pain without drowning in it. You can remember the story without reliving it. This is mastery. And you must remember, you are not here to save them. You are here to become so luminous that anyone ready to awaken will feel a pull of your field. You are here to be a lighthouse, not a lifeboat. You shine, you stand, you stay rooted in truth. And if they are ready, they will find their way. If not, you still rise, because you are not their savior, you are your own. The final truth is this: your toxic family was the fire, but you are the flame. And flames are not destroyed by fire, they are born from it. You've been initiated by pain, refined by isolation, empowered by betrayal, and now you walk not as the wounded one, but as the awakened one. You are not broken, you are brilliant. You are not behind, you are becoming. You are not waiting for a new life, you are creating it. So here is the final question I leave with you, the one that unlocks the next timeline of your evolution. If you were no longer bound by your past, who would you now give yourself permission to be? Let that question lead you. Let it whisper to you in the quiet. Let it shape your steps, your voice, your visions. Because the world doesn't need more wounded stories. It needs awakened souls. It needs you fully activated, embodied, clear, sovereign, and unstoppable. You are not here by accident. You are not broken. You are the Omega level chosen one, and your time is now. Let the world feel your frequency.